What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Sherman Wilkinson. This is the very first episode of the ROI show presented by Stemma. Today we have our special guest, Mr. T.J. Peatross. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, bro?
How you doing today?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. All right, so let's get into it, man. Tell the audience about yourself.
So I'm born and raised here in Stark County. I actually grew up maybe 20 minutes down the road from here. Me and Sherman, actually, we're back in our own stomping grounds right now. Good old Mount Union, so definitely a lot of interesting times we had here.
Raider Nation, baby.
Yeah, we both were, athletes here, student athletes. So we both had background in sports. One thing that has always been a huge part of my life is basketball. I remember telling myself when I was 9 years old, when NBA TV first came out, when I was a kid, I mean, this is way back, and I used to just sit in front of the TV all day. I remember writing a letter to NBA TV as a 9-year-old, like, hey, I want to work with you guys. So, I just never, my entire life, I just always known that basketball was going to play a role somehow. Whether it was playing, coaching, scouting, being an analyst, a commentator, anything like that. Basketball is something that's been engraved in me. And it's just something that I've always wanted to do. So
that's some passionate stuff right there, man. I love football, but it was not passionate.
Yeah, sometimes, man, I worry myself with how much I think about basketball. And with all the summer grassroots stuff during the spring, summer, then you have high school season during the winter. So it's pretty much like a full-time gig for me. It never really turns off. This is probably October is like the only month where I'm actually, not doing a whole lot. So not much of a break, that's for sure.
Good. All right. So we know that you love the game of basketball. You're super passionate about it. Tell the people, what is it that you do now to fill that void? You're done with college.
Yeah, I'm washed up, man. I always tell people, they always ask me, hey, man, you still play? And I'm like, my shoes are probably hanging up on a power line somewhere. I'm definitely a retired athlete. Anybody who comes from that, they probably feel like they're 20 years older than they actually are in terms of their body. But what I do, like I said, basketball was going to be something that no matter what, it was going to be a part of my life. So I started off, volunteering for this guy named Steve Newton. He works for Third Coast Hoops. He's kind of just making highlight videos for kids, somebody who shared that same mutual interest and passion for basketball as me. So I was working for free. I mean, I was doing this during college, and a few years after college, I'm driving from Alliance to Cleveland, to Akron, Canton, pretty much all over Northeast Ohio, covering these games, writing reports and things like that. And that just slowly developed. I was somebody who worked my tail off. I think that's one thing for anybody who's starting a business, a brand, chasing, something that they're passionate in. You have to be willing to lose before you can win.
I like that. Listen, people, say that one more time.
You have to be willing to lose before you can win. So I wasn't making any money working with Third Coast Hoops, and I'm traveling, putting hundreds and hundreds of miles on my car going to these games. And because of some of that work that I put in early on, I was able to build credibility, build a name for myself, build relationships with high school coaches, college coaches, and that's what ended, kind of sparked the idea of NEO Spotlight. So what I do now and the way I'm actually able to profit a little bit off of all the miles and things that I drive, so I run a scouting service. So what that means is I work for numerous colleges across the country, whether it's, your high major Division I programs, your mid-majors, low majors, even like local schools. They pay me a yearly fee. So what I do, I go to a bunch of different high school games and pretty much report back to them, say, hey, this is who you should recruit, this is who you shouldn't recruit. And now it's gotten to the point where I'm covering the entire state of Ohio. Ooh. So pretty much, a lot of driving, a lot of traveling, a lot of basketball. But I wake up every morning and I look forward to crushing the day.
So that's the difference. So it's not like a regular job where you're dragging.
It doesn't feel like work. There's, during the summer in AAU, there's weekends where I'm watching 30 basketball games in a 4-day stretch. And not one point during that time do I feel feel like I'm working. It's exhausting physically for sure, but it's not draining. It's not stressful. It's just, for me, it's just genuine enjoyment. I love talking to the college coaches that you run into these tournaments, dealing with the kids, helping the kids out, giving them advice, running into other people who do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely, it's just an enjoyment, man. That's the one thing I told myself in life. I don't judge myself by how much money I make. I always judge myself, where I'm at in life by how happy I am.
That's huge. That is huge right there. How happy you are.
So that's in large part why I do what I do, because I just want to be happy.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy that you said it, because I know people who are doctors, lawyers, any job you can think of that's making over $100K, right? Every time I hang out with them, they're always stressful, always complaining about, I don't have enough time, or I'm not passionate, I hate my job. But in this case, it's not a job. It's something that you love to do, that you're passionate about.
Right, and a lot of times when we go to college, we understand that we're going to be coming out with, a substantial amount of debt. Whether it's loans, you just couldn't afford to pay them in school, so you had to, figure out something. If you're able to go to college without, paying any loans or anything like that,
Amen.
Then, you should be in a good place. But a lot of times we know we're going to graduate and we're going to be in some sort of debt, so we fall into this trap of, what majors make the most money. You hear people saying, oh, I'll make $70,000 right when I graduate, or, I'll be making six figures, or I'll do this and then I'll make this amount of money. I think whenever money is the driving factor in your life, you're setting yourself up for a disaster.
Yeah.
Personally, it might work out for you, hey, but I just never, money doesn't dictate what I do. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we have to all pay the bills.
Yeah.
You don't want to be living check to check. You're just doing something that you love. But that's just kind of my mindset. I was always driven more by my own happiness and helping other people through something that I enjoy, than just, hey, how much money am I going to make doing this?
Mm-hmm. It's great that you said that, because it's kind of segue into my two principles. So the way I think that people should live, or in this my opinion, is obviously happiness is a huge factor, but another is relationships.
Absolutely.
If you have relationships, people, I always say, people sometimes say, don't judge a person by the person that they hang out with. You kind of have to. You are who you are, who you surround yourself with. And I always make that connection with people when I talk to my friends, like, you're mad, you might be going through a tough time, you might be going through a depression, but look who you're hanging around with. You're hanging around people who, I'm not trying to judge, but people who are smoking, drinking all the time, no motivation, they don't have a job.
I remember just kind of playing off of that, 50 Cent said one of my greatest quotes of all time. He said, people are no good unless they want the same things that you do. So I'm a firm believer that, if you take the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with, you are going to be the average of those 5 people. So that's why I always try and surround myself with people who are doing better than I am, people who know more than I do. Mm-hmm. And in that way, you're constantly learning and you're constantly growing. Okay.
So going back to what you do, so before you got your own brand, you start off working for free.
For free.
I wanted to say work. You were doing what you love for free.
For free, absolutely.
So you did. So you probably learned a lot, because you probably didn't know too much, but he probably taught you. What's his name? Steve Newton. You said?
Steve. Yep.
Yeah. He probably taught you a lot, and then you came to a point where I love what I'm doing. What is a way that I can create myself financial freedom? Well, I love what I'm doing. I just happen to make some money off of it.
Correct, and that was obviously the main thing that led me to starting my own scouting service. Mm-hmm. Because even though I was happy doing what I was doing with Steve and Third Coast Hoops, it just got to the point that, hey, it'd be nice to do this and put a little money in my pocket as well. Mm-hmm. So I started reaching out to other scouts and other people I know that do what I do now, and it's just a constant learning process. I honestly had no idea what I was doing at first. I had no clue. Like, when I sit back, and I actually, have a lot of the things that I wrote into some of my evaluations of players back then, and I look at it, and it's like, I came a long way, and I still have a long way to go. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of the times people are so prideful that they feel like they know it all already, mm-hmm. or they don't need help. That's a big thing you always see on social media. People saying, "Oh, I don't need anybody. I can do it by myself." I don't think you can find any successful person in this world who did it by themselves.
No.
So that's why I'm constantly talking to people, reaching out to them. Hey, what do you think I can do better? Hey, how did you do this? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I just try to incorporate and put my twist on as many things as I can. Just always be a student. Whether or not I'm a school teacher, I'm a basketball scout, I'm always going to be a student in life because I feel like I always need to learn and want to learn. Because the second you stop learning is the second you stop growing.
I agree 100%. I agree. I agree. I know there's been instances in my time where it's like I want to learn something and I don't, but then I take that step back where it's like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? I'm wasting time. I'm not making myself better as physically, mentally, spiritually. You have to always be willing to learn something. My degree is in communications, and I'm somehow in cybersecurity. And I worked in the NBA. That has no correlation, but I wanted to learn. I saw a quote. I don't know who it was from. It was from one of the speakers on LinkedIn. He's like, if you apply for a job that you know nothing about, take it. Just take it. Because you're going to learn something totally new. You're going to be engaged. You're going to be working your butt off like, okay, how can I learn this? How can I do this?
Because you're playing catch-up.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I want to go back a little bit. I want to get real. Talk about the positivity. What were the negatives, or how many times did you doubt yourself when you first began to start figuring out, okay, how can I make this a little bit more profit in my pocket?
So when I first started NEO Spotlight, the reason I did that is because I already had so many, relationships with college coaches. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, oh man, this guy, this school, all these schools are going to want to work with me. But then once you find out when you're giving information out for free and stuff, people are a little more hesitant to pay you sometimes for your opinion. So from where I started year one, I didn't have a ton of schools. And I was still, if you want to call it, from a business standpoint, in the red. Because I'm doing all this traveling, all these hotels, all this gas money, food. And what the money I was bringing in wasn't even close to the money that was going out. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it was like, I thought I was, I guess, further along than I was. Mm-hmm. But like we talked about before we started, nothing comes overnight.
No.
So from that first year where I was at, I could have stopped after that first year and said, hey, I only have, this amount of schools signed up for my service. Mm-hmm. Is this even worth it? But what I did, I just put my head down and I just kept pushing. And from year one to going into year 3 where I'm at right now, I've tripled the amount of schools that I work with.
That's nice.
And it's all just because, like you said, relationships. Mm-hmm. Life is all about relationships. You have to put yourself out there. You have to talk to as many people as you can. Mm-hmm. And go outside of your comfort zone. If you're not an outgoing person, I challenge you to do something that's outside of your comfort zone. Do something that you normally wouldn't do, whether it's once a week, just anything. Because like you said, you kind of stay in that bubble. You're not going to grow. So yeah, that's what it was. I mean, I hit a lot of road bumps early on because I wasn't making a ton of money, and I'm a school teacher, so I mean, wasn't making a ton of money, from that standpoint either. So it was like, should I just, focus on something else? But it always goes back to the fact that I'm happy doing this, and I feel like if you're happy, you're helping others, you're doing things the right way, the money will come. I'm a firm believer in that. So that's just what I did, and just kind of put my head down, and things are really beginning to take off.
That's nice. I love hearing that. Like, it kind of gives me chills because I've been through the similar situation, which I'll get my story later on, next couple of videos. But it's all about you. So when you are talking to these coaches, that you're working with, how was that process? Because it had to be hard. Like, you had a great relationship. Now you're kind of asking, hey, I can't be giving you this stuff for free. How was that process?
It's definitely a transition for sure. And a lot of schools, they're on different budgets. Some schools, like, your Ohio States, your all these big-time programs, they have endless amount of money in their budget. Some of those other schools, those low majors, whether it's Division IIs or some of those mid majors who are a little more stingy about their money. But when it comes to the point, you have to be willing sometimes to do things for free in order to make money from them later. So a lot of times what I did was I would give a lot of coaches information for free. And I would look out for them, send them a player, say, hey, make sure you check on this kid. And when you're doing things for people for free or doing things for people that you don't have to do, more times than not, they're going to want to look out for you.
Yeah.
So when it comes time to, hey, sign up for my scouting service, they're like, well, TJ's done, a lot for us. Let me help him out. And then they don't feel like an asshole.
Yeah.
Like they're just not constantly taking from you. So it's all about relationships, and no one's going to want to invest into somebody or someone that they don't have a relationship with. That's pretty much.
What would you say during that process, or even in your life, what would you say was the lowest point in your life?
I would say when I graduated from college, obviously, I took on a substantial amount of debt, and I was trying to find a teaching position. And then, this was kind of before I started NEO Spotlight, so I'm a substitute teacher, making $50, $60, $70 a day, still living with my parents at the time. So I'm just bringing in scraps, just trying to get by. I feel like anybody in their 20s that you talk to, we're still trying to figure it out.
Oh yeah, that's what they're for. People, before you finish, people, I want you to understand, when you're between 20 and 30, you're supposed to be getting your ass kicked. Those 10 years is trial and error. So if you think that I have nothing to show for it, you're fine. We all been through this. Before I got to cybersecurity, I was washing windows for about $10 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we have to do jobs that we don't want to do. So I was a substitute teacher, and I thought when I got out of college I would be able to jump right into having my own classroom. So I was a substitute teacher for 2 years, like I said, not making a ton of money. I landed my first position up in Cuyahoga Falls. I was a full-time English teacher, and this was right when I launched NEO Spotlight. So I'm a first-year teacher who's taking on all these new challenges, just a new workload. And then I just launched my, my brand, my website, and everything. So it was at that point I felt like I had to make a choice. I said, hey, obviously teaching, this is what I went to school for, and I genuinely enjoy teaching.
Yep.
But then it was like, this is what I love.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it came to the point where I didn't know if I could manage both. So what I did was I went back to substitute teaching because it was less workload once I got home.
Yep.
Started my website, and things kind of went from there. So it's definitely an interesting period for me, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. What was my ultimate goal? Was it to teach? Was it to be in basketball full time? And now it's to the point where I'm actually able to do both. The position that I have at the school I work with, it's a full-time position, benefits, paid summers off, all the perks, the teachers get. But then it also allows me to full-time focus on my business as well.
Yes.
So what I was able to do was eventually, it took, I graduated 2014, it's 2018. It took me 4 or 5 years to figure out this balance.
Wow.
But it's gotten to the point where I'm a little more comfortable with what I want to do, right? I'm still in the classroom. I'm still helping kids that way. Then I'm also able to manage my basketball and my brand on the side as well. So
that's nice, man. I love to hear that in your story. It's so similar to people who, like I said, you was going through a tough time. You know where you were going, what you're going to do.
No idea.
You're still with your parents. You're only settled to making a couple bucks a day. But you never gave up. You knew what you wanted. You had to figure out. You had to go inside. You had to talk to yourself like, okay, what can I do to put more love experience out there for people to, like you said, your biggest things are happiness, helping others,
doing what I love.
And doing what you love. And those three things, like all the things come back. You probably have to doubt yourself, like, damn, like, can I really launch this website? Can I really do this job? You took a sacrifice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sacrificed a full-time teaching position to do something that at the time wasn't bringing me any money. So that was, in most adults' minds, that doesn't make any sense.
And he didn't take a loan. He did not take a loan.
No, I trust me, a loan is like the word loan is like a cuss word in my house.
The L word. We don't say the L word.
If you say loan, you got to put $1 in the jar.
That's smart, man. I love that. So, for people who, maybe 25, 28, even 29, what is some advice that you have for those people who are listening right now?
One thing I would tell people, because I'm 28 as well, I don't want to come up here and make it seem like I have everything figured out, because I don't. Mm-hmm. And if you're someone like me who doesn't have it figured out yet, that is okay. Mm-hmm. But what I think, my biggest advice that I can give to anybody is to not settle. If you're working that job that you don't like and you're just paying the bills and, and it's just kind of wash, rinse, repeat with your life, like I said, find something that you love. Whether you try and make it into a part-time job, a full-time job, whether it just stays a hobby. I feel like a lot of times as adults we just get caught up in paying bills, work, and that's it. Yeah. We start to lose time and lose interest in the things that we grew up doing or the things we wanted to be. So I just tell people, find time for yourself. Find time to do things that you love. Mm-hmm. Or it's going to be difficult to be happy.
I like that. I really appreciate sharing your story. Now, please let the people know, where they can follow you on your Twitter, your email.
Absolutely. So if you're a big basketball fan, specifically high school basketball, you can follow me on Twitter at NEO_spotlight. The website is neohiospotlight.com. I'll be having a ton of information and coverage coming out soon to preview the upcoming basketball season. So pretty much any basketball junkie, whether you love college, NBA, high school, like I said, reach out to me. Anybody who's willing, who wants to maybe get into something that I do, I love to be able to take people to games and give them like an inside scoop of what I do and how things operate from my side. Mm-hmm. So if that's something that you're interested in as well, you reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to kind of help someone out in that regard.
You know what you should do? I'm gonna get some advice. If somebody does reach out to you, give them an internship.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something I'd be very open to as well.
Somebody, go through the struggles you went through. I mean, not trying to struggle, but give them experience that, hey, I'm going to teach you how to write. I'm going to teach you how, have communication with these coaches. That way they can start to build their brand. Now, since it's NE Ohio Spotlight, you're going to change your name once you become bigger.
I know. That was... I guess if you want to call it a regret, that's something that I kind of wish I was like, I wish I would have thought about that a little more. But when I first launched the website, back when I wasn't making a ton of money, I was strictly covering Northeast Ohio. Mm-hmm, yeah. So that was my mindset, Northeast Ohio. But then it got to the point where, why am I limiting myself to just this corner of the state? Yeah. Where I have relationships and I have coaches that recruit from the rest of the state as well. Mm-hmm. So then I had to branch out. So that's one thing that I kind of wish I would have gave a little more thought to. Mm-hmm. But it's a learning process.
It's a trial and error.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, hey, once again, we got my man T.J. Peatross. I'm your boy Sherman Wilkinson. Like I said, this is also presented by Stemma. Like I said, make sure you follow me on Twitter at DJ Sherman the Worm. And then make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel too. All right, see you.
See you guys.